Hey, it's Mike over at fishyourassoff.com, and today what we're talking about is winter fishing for snook. Now in the wintertime you really have to change your patterns around. They're almost opposite of the summer because fish are cold-blooded. They're like a lizard or a snake or a gator or whatever else. You know, they have to warm up before they can get anything done. They're not going to get any work done when they're freezing cold. They can barely move. So you have to realize that and change your fishing patterns accordingly. You know, in the summertime, you got to be up. I like to be up on the water before the sun comes up because it gets so damn hot where I am that you're not going to catch any fish come 11 or 12 probably, at least not on the flats in the areas where I'm fishing mostly. So it's basically the opposite. So in the wintertime, it's freezing cold at night, so the sun has to warm up the water. So you basically fish the opposites, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So you want to fish the deep places early, you know, when you're inshore here fishing for these, and then the shallow places later. So it's kind of the opposite as it in the summertime because, again, it's about finding that comfortable temperature for these fish, and there has to be prey items around there for them too. So let's just go ahead and cover that. All right, so like I was just talking about a minute ago, you don't have to get up at the crack of dawn like you would in the summertime and such. You know, get up late, take your time, do whatever, putz around a little bit. You know, you don't need to get up at 4 or 5 and be on the water before the sun comes up. It's the opposite. You know, take your time as long as you're out there 8, 9, 10 o'clock, whatever, because the best fishing is going to be when the water gets warmed up enough, which will be, you know, in the middle of the day. So take your time. You don't need to be out there at the crack of dawn. This one, go deep early. So, you know, the water temperature, you know, overnight is probably going to be warmer down deep than it is up top because the sun hasn't heated it up, put its energy into the water. So this is when you want to fish those deep docks, you know, river cuts, you know, creek mouths, river mouths, inlets, bridge pilings, whatever. I'm talking something that's maybe 10, 12 feet deep at least. You might just find a whole congregation of snook sitting down there. And then as the sun's energy goes into that water and starts heating it up, then you'll start to see these snook move shallow. So then they'll be back in the normal places, up against the mangroves or out on the grass flats looking for potholes or anything like that where they can get back and act normal, you know, around the docks, the shallow docks, you know, anywhere they can ambush their prey. So you just really have to kind of switch your thinking when it comes to this. Another thing, you got to slow your retrieve. Now these snook, they're cold-blooded. They're like a lizard or something. So, you know, you see the lizard sitting out on a rock trying to get warm so it can go out and do its chores, whatever it's got to do for the day. Go find a lady, get some food, whatever they got to do. So slow down your retrieve until this snook is warm enough to actually do something, like go find food or whatever it's got to do. You really got to go slow. And here's another one. It's a lot like a redfish. These snook will head right up the creeks and rivers. So in the places where you have all these snook, you know, they're going to go and look for warm water. They basically turn into kind of a bass, if you ask me. They'll head up these freshwater creeks and rivers because they're, you know, totally freshwater tolerant. And they'll be feeding on crawdads and frogs and bluegills and things just like a bass would. And so think about them as a bass in the wintertime too. If they're not down deep or out by the inlets like the big sows and things like that will tend to do, head up the creeks and rivers. You might just find yourself a whole bunch of snook up there. As far as baits go, well, this is, you know, it makes sense. You know, since you got to be deep early, you need something that goes down deep, so deep divers. And then once the water warms up, you can use top water as long as it's slow. Nice slow walking the dog or any of those kind of things are going to work real well, you know, once the water warms up. But again, slower than normal. And then soft plastics. You know, these are both late. Top water and soft plastics a little bit later in the day. And let's just cover some of my favorites. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I'm kind of cheap. These zooms are real cheap. They're great for pitching up the mangroves or anywhere. Real shallow. Rig them weedless. You know, I use like a bigger hook like this thick one. This is a Mustad. This is a 5/0. I use something heavy like this when I want to sink. And I'll use something really light, like these real thinly wired ones like this when I want it to stay shallow if I'm only fishing in a foot or two of water for snook. This is a great one for pitching up into mangroves and things like that. And you know, my colors I like a dark one. This is basically a root beer looking thing with some sparkles in it. And then here's just a pearl. You know, I like a white, I like a dark. Here's another one. I fish with this 80-90% of the time. It's a DOA Cal. It's a pearl. This is my go-to. Catches everything: reds, trout, snook, tarpon, flounder, whatever. Catches just about everything. So I fish with this mostly. And don't forget Gulp. If they're being real finicky and they want something with some smell to it, toss a Gulp out there, because you know, snook love these. I've caught tons of snook on Gulp. You know, people a lot of times think redfish and real scent-oriented fish for these Gulp, but the snook love these. Here's another deep down lure that I love. This is a DOA. It's called a Big Eyes. It's just a heavier version of the DOA Terrorize. This is a glow. I fish predominantly with glow, pearl, and then a root beer color. So if the ones aren't working, the light ones aren't working, I'll switch to dark and vice versa. Here's another get down deep, great lure. You know, I tie my own jigs, but red and white just works great. You know, so does a chartreuse will work real well, and so will a pink version of this too. So this is real good for snook, especially, you know, bouncing down deep, you know, early in the morning, you know, when they're not on the flats yet. I'll tell you another thing people always forget: spoons catch everything. I mean, spoons literally catch everything. I've caught whiting on spoons, you get pompano on spoons, snook on spoons, sheepshead will bite spoons. Everything bites spoons. Trout, tarpon. So don't forget a spoon. This is a weedless spoon. This is a great one to just sink out there when you're going down deep in the morning. It's a great lure to fish with. Great, great, great lure. Don't forget spoons. Let's see what else I have here. Here's just some jig heads. You know, you might want heavier ones, you know, when you're fishing early. This is only an 1/8 ounce. You might want to go half or a little bigger even, but then, you know, once they go shallow, you want to lighten up to an 1/8 or a 1/16 probably, you know, something like that. But that's really it, you know, for this. I just really want to explain just how different it is fishing in the wintertime versus the summertime. A lot of people are like, it sucks in the wintertime. It really doesn't. You just, the fish, you have to think like the fish, and they're cold. So you got to figure out where they are and what's going to happen. You know, the tide bringing warm water in or warm water out. You really just got to think about temperature and forage for these fish. So deep early, shallow late. But you can find all this information right on our website. It's www.fishyourassoff.com. We have a how-to section, a where-to section, all kinds of educational videos. The whole site is basically simple tips to help fishermen catch more fish. So get on there, check it out. But until next time, we'll see you then. All right. Bye-bye.